Welcome. With Higher Ed Climate Action, we are working to develop an action plan to support the higher education sector in moving towards climate change. Over the next year, we will be learning from many stakeholders about the importance of this work, and we're excited to welcome you to our second listening session today.
Thank you so much, Millie. We have, as you know, a great panel to help us understand, help all of us really understand how higher education can prepare students for the clean economy jobs, a really important topic for us to discuss. We are joined by a fantastic panel. Taj Eldridge, Managing Director of Climate Innovations at Jobs for the Future, as well as Truckee Meadows Community College President Karen Hilgersom. Also, New Jersey Secretary of Higher Education, Brian Bridges, plus Amanda Ballantyne, who is Executive Director of the AFL-CIO's Technology Institute. We will hear from each panelist first, and then the task force will be able to answer questions. And I apologize, I'm Commissioner of Higher Ed, Kim Hunter-Reid from the great state of Louisiana. So Millie, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you so much, Kim. And I didn't introduce myself, Mildred García, President of the American Association of State Colleges and Universities. And thank you to the task force and to the audience watching online for joining us today. We will begin with Taj Eldridge.
Thank you, Dr. Garcia. Hey, everyone, thank you for joining for this great conversation. As mentioned, I'm Taj Eldridge, the Managing Director of Jobs for the Future Climate Innovations, where we talk about the intersection of climate and workforce. Ironically, we just released a paper, which I'll be going through really quickly, about the intersection of what jobs are, because we believe that before we start having this conversation about the skills that are needed and the things that we need to do to train our students for that, we need to first have a level footing of defining what green jobs are. And Dr. Garcia, if I may, I'll share my screen to talk about a few things really quickly that's going in this space about the opportunity with green jobs as well. So we look at green jobs in a few different ways. First is that when we talk about this just transition, we have to remove the limitations around how we define and categorize green jobs. That's why this conversation and this paper that we produce is important. And the reason for that is that we may have limiting opportunities for our students when we're talking about the job opportunities in the green economy, and just thinking just flowing on the idea of electric vehicles or transportation or grid management, energy management. It is a whole list of things. To give an example, the things that I'm wearing, the reason I wear these hats as well, they are made out of sustainable materials and waste. Many people don't realize that apparel is one of the largest producers of greenhouse gas emissions, more than aviation and shipping combined. So it's an opportunity for us as we teach the students about the skills and opportunities in the green economy to expand what we call those green jobs are. The second thing that we want to focus on is that a lot of our students, as they're going through the process, is looking for jobs. Not everybody is going to work for a startup company or a tech company or a new energy company. Some of these existing legacy industries will have the opportunity to be green as well. And so we think that in this report, we talk about is that all jobs have the potential to become quality green jobs through this idea of green skills, knowledge, and information as well. And then the last opportunity is that we talk about this idea of diversity. And it's an opportunity for the green jobs of the future to really impact and have an opportunity with the people in the space to get these jobs and ensure that we're talking about the communities that are vastly impacted by the green economy and climate change as well. So those three things are areas that we want to talk about as we talk about the need for skills and the need for teaching the students in this area as well. This report that I mentioned is part of a larger program within JFF called CREST, which stands for Climate Resilient Employees for a Sustainable Tomorrow, that was funded by the Aries Charitable Foundation. And this idea for the Aries Charitable Foundation as the focus on is, in my career, I started out as a climate investor in the venture capital space where we create the jobs in the climate space. But we need to ensure that we don't have the same situation that happened years ago when we had the training that was there, but the lack of jobs that followed. So it needs to be a collaboration between not only the policymakers, not only the institutions of higher learning that are training these workers, but also the market who are investing in these opportunities to ensure that there's collaboration there to not only produce the training and skills that are necessary for the jobs that are today, but the jobs that will be developed tomorrow in the green economy field as well. So love to the rest of this conversation, and thank you all for allowing us to talk about press the green economy and our paper that's being released.
Thank you so much, Taj. I'm looking forward to reading that report, and let's turn it over to Karen Hilgerson.
Karen, can you unmute?
Well, that's a terrible way to begin. Anyway,
Now
hi
we hear
everyone.
you.
I'm Dr. Karen Hilgerson from Truckee Meadows Community College. Truckee Meadows Community College is located in the great state of Nevada in the Reno-Sparks area. We serve about 10 to 11,000 students on the credit side of the house annually. So we're a mid-sized college. We are known for sustainability. We are very proud of our efforts to have sustainable facilities. We have faculty and students engaged in sustainability projects. In the spring of 2023, we had over 100 curriculum-connected sustainability projects happening on our college campus. It's wonderful that Tesla chose to locate their Gigafactory about 30 minutes from our main campus here in Reno, Nevada. The Tesla story begins, for us anyway, begins in around June of 2016, which is when they were building out their facility. And their representative said, Karen, we need 2,600 employees by December. That was in July. Can you help us? And now they're up to past 10,000 employees. And of course, we were happy to help. The role of the two-year college cannot be underestimated. We really are an economic engine when it comes to workforce training and development. The Tesla story has been fantastic. And of course, Panasonic is vital to this cause. Panasonic contracts with Tesla, and it's because of them that batteries are produced. And I think you'll see Panasonic North America producing batteries for many, many other battery needs in the near future. So I will say that it took a while, it took a couple of years for us to really have a partnership that was in alignment. Today, I'm very happy to report that we have several hundred apprentices every year and moving through the Tesla Panasonic apprenticeship pipeline. Many of these positions are paid. This is what's important. Many of the students in these positions are students coming from our adult basic education, English second language, non-traditional adults coming back after a few years outside of high school or even college. And then of course, there are traditional college-age students, because again, hundreds of our residents are moving through the Tesla Panasonic pipeline in order to meet a need in the workforce space. And that need is so exciting for us because it does connect to a new economy that is based on renewables. And that is really exciting. We should be very, very proud of that. I don't want to underestimate the linkages between adult basic education and ESL learners, because that's really where you have the economic justice and the social justice coming together in a new economy where no one is left behind, and where if individuals want to work, there's plenty of work to do as we change the way the world functions around renewable energy sources. The Tesla START program is really exciting. This program aligns with the United States Department of Labor, the 5 hallmarks for good apprenticeship programs. The program is designed for existing Tesla employees or the incumbent workers, and it's a pathway to really great jobs within Tesla. The program provides 50 hours of related instruction per apprentice and on-the-job learning and mentoring. Tesla provides the faculty member who teaches at our campus location. This is crucial. Too many of our Tesla faculty were getting poached by Tesla for higher paying Tesla jobs. This way, the faculty member is well paid by Tesla, and he's doing a fabulous job for us. The partnership now is completely integrated, and that's what two-year colleges really, really need. The students get paid to go to class, and they get paid for their on-the-job training. That is an extremely important point as we move to a new energy economy. Program completers receive credentials. They can move all the way up through their lives to our bachelor's degree. in advanced manufacturing. So that's pretty exciting for a predominantly two-year college. With that, I will close and just say again, I'm very, very happy to be here and to participate, and look forward to working with each and every one of you as we move to a new world economy. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Karen. What a wonderful example of exactly what we're talking about. Thanks so much. And I now turn it over to Secretary Brian Bridges. Welcome.
Well, thank you, Dr. Garcia. I appreciate the opportunity to be here with you all today. For those of you who I'm not acquainted with on the line, because I'm acquainted with several of you already, my name is Brian Bridges. I'm the Secretary of Higher Education in New Jersey, and I'm excited to tell you a little bit about the work taking place in the Garden State to strengthen collaboration between the higher ed sector and our workforce development partners around the green economy. And so I want to share a few slides with you if I have an opportunity to do so. And let me see if I can do that here. Okay, and oh, let me go back. And so, am I to? Okay, there we are. Okay, so I want to just share with you from day one, the Murphy administration has been committed to, has placed climate and equity squarely at the center of the, as joint priorities alongside the integration of economic development and educational opportunity initiatives. And the state has been intentional about creating a culture of innovation through setting bold, clean energy goals that align with opportunities for future innovation. And our strategy for economic development is tied to the green economy and our clean energy goals. Governor Murphy even created a council on the green economy to explore how New Jersey can embrace more green economy industries and jobs, and higher education was at that table on that council. And paired with my office's efforts to create more affordable pathways to post-secondary education and training for all New Jerseyans, regardless of life circumstance, more and more students are becoming better equipped to pursue clean economy jobs. So to ensure that the post-secondary to employment ecosystem is well positioned for the future, cross-sector collaborations between the state, employers, the community, and our higher education institutions are essential. And this means establishing innovative partnerships with in-demand growth industries to develop and expand experiential and career-relevant learning opportunities. So the key example that I want to share is the Wind Institute for Innovation and Training, which is one of the state's major vehicles for collaboration on wind energy. The New Jersey Economic Development Authority, our office, the Office of the Secretary of Higher Education, and various state agencies have partnered through the Wind Institute to accelerate the development of a robust and diverse offshore wind workforce and champion research and innovation that unlocks market potential. Now, as a part of the Institute, our office has worked closely with the EDA to execute several initiatives that support our institutions in preparing New Jersey's clean energy workforce. One, we released $3 million in grant funding to Atlantic Cape Community College to develop a global wind organization, basic safety and sea survival facility in Atlantic City. Second, Rowan College of South Jersey also received a grant to develop a wind turbine technician training program. And in addition, the Wind Institute Fellowship Program provides financial support for undergraduate and graduate student research on an array of offshore wind topics. And in the first year, the Wind Institute supported 26 student fellows at 4 institutions, and the program expanded in year 2 to support up to 36 students across 8 institutions. In addition to this, we've also provided financial support to Rutgers, Rowan University, New Jersey Institute of Technology, and Montclair State University to start new initiatives that support industry-recognized expertise in offshore wind. Now, each institution took a different path, a different approach with this funding, from research to building curricular models to even starting a boot camp in offshore wind technology. And the partnership through the Wind Institute epitomizes the kind of innovative ways that we can approach the work to prepare students for clean economy jobs. New Jersey has also been very intentional about making post-secondary opportunity more accessible and affordable, while working with institutions to promote pathways that prepare students for careers as part of the green economy. Saying we provide access without providing the necessary resources is an empty promise. But what's not an empty promise is New Jersey's College Promise program, which is a cornerstone example of our state's investment in New Jersey workers and the future of our economy by building equitable pathways to post-secondary education and career success. Programs like our Community College Opportunity Grant and our Garden State Guarantee which together form a pathway for students to pursue a 2- or 4-year degree tuition-free, create unparalleled opportunity for New Jersey residents. These programs currently benefit families earning up to $80,000 and, depending on income, provide either a low or no cost degree. We've also established a statewide approach to re-engage more than 750,000 New Jersey residents who have some college credit but did not complete their degree or credential. In fact, we are convening right this moment a some college no degree statewide some college no degree convening in New Jersey, and I stepped out from that to participate in this panel, where we're helping adult learners believe in their ability to return to college and provide tailored support so that they can complete those degrees or credentials, which aren't just life-changing for them, but it's allowing them to pursue credentials that can support their entry into green jobs that may not have existed when they may have first attended college. And that's incredibly critical as we look to fill talent gaps and ensure New Jersey residents have the tools and skills for jobs in those industries needed to fuel the workforce in the future. And our office is currently implementing the second iteration of the Career Accelerator Internship Grant Program to foster innovative ways to connect New Jersey college students with companies located in the Garden State. And we're providing grant funding to employers to underwrite intern salaries interested in offering, to employers who are interested in offering paid summer internship opportunities to undergrads from New Jersey higher education institutions. And we prioritize grant funding to New Jersey-based companies, nonprofits, not-for-profits, and small businesses this summer, and employers in the STEM fields. So while we work broadly to increase access in higher education, when aligned with a state-level agenda that prioritizes clean jobs as part of economic development, these programs support efforts to educate and prepare a more diverse pool of students for potential clean economy careers. Now, we owe a great deal of our success to New Jersey's whole of state approach that encourages us to work with as well as bring together a huge collaboration of experts. This includes our colleges and universities, who are true engines of innovation for our state, but also our agency's expertise in working as an active partner to cultivate the right strategic relationships and refine approaches in a particular policy area. As we advance our initiatives, we continue to look for opportunities to leverage existing and new partnerships that enable us to build our state's culture of innovation in a sustainable and green direction. And I want to thank you all for the opportunity to contribute to this conversation and share how New Jersey has sought to lead the change in some respects. And I look forward to deeper discussion with the task force.
Thank you so much, Brian. What a wonderful example of a state working with higher ed and adults and make diverse individuals go into green positions. And now I turn it over to Amanda Ballantyne.
Hi there. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Amanda Ballantyne. I run 2 projects for the AFL-CIO. For those of you who don't know, the AFL-CIO is America's largest labor federation. We represent 60 international unions covering every sector of the economy and 13 million workers. Union training programs have been, a staple of worker access to better jobs and better lives for 100 years. And I run the Technology Institute, which is a project that's focused on the intersection of work and unions and technology and the changes that are happening in our economy as the result of really big shifts in technology across many sectors. I also run our workforce intermediary, which is called the Working for America Institute, where we work with employers and unions to develop registered apprenticeship programs and deploy workforce development strategies that are really focused on worker voice. Really have appreciated the presentations that my colleagues on the panel have made. And wanted to start sort of where Taj started with the concept of just transition. And this is true both for, I think, the clean energy transition in our economy and also the technology transition that we're dealing with around things like AI and other digital technologies. It's this idea that as an economy transitions, it's really critical that workers at any point in their career, whether they're starting their career and working through apprenticeship or higher ed, or whether they need to go back and train and upskill, but that workers not only have access to high quality training, but they also have access to jobs at the end of that training or upskilling experience, and that those jobs are good jobs, as good as the jobs that they may have lost to automation. Which brings me to sort of a core feature of the role of labor unions and the partnership between labor unions and higher ed over the years, which is that labor unions really are a bulwark for workers in terms of making sure that the jobs that they're moving into can become good jobs. I think there's an assumption in this country that any manufacturing job will be a good job because it's in the manufacturing sector. And that's not actually true. There are a lot of manufacturing jobs in this country that are dangerous, that are low paying, and where workers don't have access to the skills and safety and training that they really need to be effective. That's a problem for workers, obviously. It's also a problem for the efficiency of manufacturing in this country. So as we look at the Biden administration's investment, not only in the building of new clean energy jobs, but also in the building of the manufacturing and the operating of the manufacturing facilities, unions play a really critical role. There's a concept that we pull out, it's called worker voice. And that's the idea that workers themselves really are experts in how to do work safely and efficiently. And they bring to the table as much knowledge and expertise as managers and as trainers. And union-based training programs and registered apprenticeship programs are really rooted in this concept of worker voice. When I visit union training facilities around the country, often these facilities are deeply partnered in their communities. They're deeply partnered with community college and higher education institutions, but they're also really closely partnered with the management of the companies that they're connected to. So labor management partnership around the development of training systems is a very powerful way both to build a collaboration between workers and their employers, but also to make sure that there's a sort of constant iteration between what management needs and how a factory or a firm is operating and the skills and training that workers need to be efficient and effective on the job. So an example that I give is, I have spent a fair amount of time at the UAW's training facilities in Detroit. They're incredible. Advanced manufacturing processes and the training that's used. But what's interesting to me, what's most interesting, is that most of the instructors in those facilities really were at one point workers on the shop floor. They have deep relationships with the management and the people who are operating the factory. And so when new robots are introduced or new safety methods are required to handle new production facilities, there is that very, very tight relationship. Those facilities rely on educational pipelines, both from high schools, but also from community colleges. And I think we're heartened when we hear about opportunities community colleges really taking on and building registered apprenticeship programs. I think my colleague from Truckee Community Colleges discussed those, because registered apprenticeship, it creates not only like a clear pathway for a worker that usually results in a commitment for a job, but also an opportunity for a relationship around upskilling and development. And we think the labor management partnership sort of embedded in community organizations and institutions is the most critical way, not only to provide the training and facilities for workers, but also to really, in a long-term way, manage that just transition strategy. There's going to be, I think that in the next 10 or 15 years, workforce is going to be the key to making the Biden investments go. It's going to be the key to us meeting our climate change goals and to us helping workers navigate really big changes that are going to result from digital technologies. And I just want to underscore for our higher ed community that partnerships with labor unions are critical for driving equitable outcomes in terms of job quality when workers actually get in the job, but also in terms of providing a quality lifetime learning experience for workers and a pathway to help them navigate shifts and changes. So thanks very much.
Thank you so much, Amanda. Once again, you remind us about a collaboration and partnership, and we can't in higher ed do it alone. So thank you so much for the important information. I get the joy of asking the first question. So my first question begins with, okay, we have this amazing report and these wonderful examples. How do we get that report to this institutions that mostly need it, the institutions that have the students that are the mostly underserved? And how do we get these wonderful examples, not only sharing the examples, but giving us the opportunities and challenges you had to make those examples successful?
Well, I'll begin. I love it because one thing we talk about a lot at GFF is that we want to lift the data from the page, right? And what that means is engagement and ensuring that we're looking at different mediums to really engage in this space. One of the things that I think is really interesting, and when we talk about this idea of the green economy, is that we have to do what I call climate code switching. We have to talk about climate differently in different areas when we're talking about with students and what have you. A lot of times our colleagues have talked about climate from a standpoint of net zero and preparing for the jobs, but I pose these other opportunities as well. For us, the impact of climate is three things. It is a public health issue because there are many cities and states where you have people who are impacted by their health with the impacts of climate. So it increases the concern and the awareness of it as well. Secondly, it is an economic issue. There's an opportunity to build green wealth in this space as well. 100 years ago, when we transitioned from the horse and carriage to gas-powered vehicles, there were a lot of families who made a lot of money in their transition, still to this day. We're making a similar transition now between gas-powered vehicles and others to this new energy transition, and it gives an opportunity for those communities to not only be utilizing these solutions, but also be a part of the solution. And then lastly, to your point about ensuring that we're reaching these communities, one of the things we have to think about is that a lot of these impacts of climate and the solutions that we're talking about in training for impacts immigrant communities and communities of color far more worse than others. And a lot of our institutions are in these communities as well. So I think a lot of the times what we talk about is the same thing we talk about in the venture capital space of getting out of the office, going into those communities. As an example, lastly, we recently had a conference in New Orleans where we had this Horizons event where we invited a number of folks from the educational space. Some of you may have attended. But what we also did as well is had a place-based dinner where we invited the local organizations within that city to talk more in depth about it and to also learn what they're doing and offer these solutions as well. So that's just one of the ways the GFF has been focusing on really kind of getting this data off the page and off the site into the communities.
And Millie, I'd like to add in from the state perspective, I do think that there's an opportunity here. Institutions have, and their leaders have a host of things, as most of you know, a ton of the priorities that emerge on their agendas every day. And those shift from one day to the next, 1 week to the next. And one of the things that I think you can leverage states and leaders like my colleague, Kim Hunter-Reid, is that we have to incentivize behavior. And we have to just be realistic. You know, a lot of these conversations that take place nationally often don't see movement until there is some kind of incentive, whether it's a carrot, which is often money, or a stick, which is often some kind of accountability, unfortunately. And so I think that having states to push this out with some kind of incentive behind it, I think could be a lever that could be used to get more schools to buy into it. I think that the natural path of how our economy and society is moving will kind of incentivize institutions to do some of this on their own. But to try to spur along the natural progression of things, I do think that states intervening and providing some kind of incentive could help to move this further.
I would echo that and also note how important the Department of Labor grants have been for TMCC. We're in a subcountry on a very large grant related to manufacturing. And the grant it's a West LA college got the grant, and we're one of their, we call it the Gamma grant. And that helps pay the students for their class time, which is a great component of an apprenticeship program. So I think the Department of Labor grants are really have been a really good incentive. The other thing that I'm concerned about as we move forward with changing infrastructure is right now, I don't think there's a strong connection between the states and the federal government and two-year college training needs, meaning that if new infrastructure is going to happen in Northern Nevada, it would be good if any kind of incentives moving to the feds, to the states, if then there's a state liaison that reaches out to all the two-year colleges in that particular state to say, we think we need 200 workers to do this new infrastructure, you know, whatever that infrastructure is, whether it's infrastructure for wind or solar or geothermal, right? Because once we know the number, how many workers we think we need, and ideally they are union jobs so that we don't like educating students for low paid jobs. We like educating students for living wage jobs, right? And so so there are some gaps in the information to really be ready to build out the physical structures that will be needed. Thanks.
Okay, I know that Charity has a question, so let me ask her to unmute and ask her question.
Yes. Are you guys able to hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
That makes sense.
Great. I apologize if there's noise in the background. I'm zooming in from the Aspen Ideas Festival. It's my first time here as a fellow, but yeah, I just want to thank all the panelists for being here. I've learned so much, but I guess one of my biggest concerns, I'm still in college, and I see that when it comes to a lot of clean economic jobs, there's not as many BIPOC youth. And my question is really open to any one of the four panelists, but how are you ensuring that kind of the resources that you described are accessible to Black and Indigenous students in your companies, in your spaces, in the community colleges? Because I know for me, that's a huge concern. And then when I think about conservation and sustainability jobs, it's not as diverse as it should be. And I think that's something we all understand. But yeah, that's my question. And thank you so much for dedicating some time today to kind of share this with us during the listening session.
Well, thank you so much, Charity, for that phenomenal. One of the things we talk about often is that when we speak of this word diversity, for us, it's more than race, gender, and sexual orientation. It includes geographic diversity and educational attainment diversity. So not only when we're talking about this idea of good quality green jobs, we're not only talking about those of us who may have terminal degrees, not all of us who may have bachelor's degrees, those of us who may have attended a two-year college, which is important for the workforce, and also those who have not attended college, who may have a pathway to apprenticeship, what we call the paid pathways. And so we think that's important. And when you talk about this idea of geographic diversity, that also allows for other communities to be involved, where you touch on Black and Brown communities and Indigenous communities. As an example, within CREST, within this project that we're focused on training and placing individuals, 25,000 individuals in these green economy jobs, what we made sure is that we carved out a portion of that in working with regions for Indigenous communities and rural communities as well, where you have a lot of people of color in those communities. Further, I would say, if I put my investor hat on, one of the things that has changed in the last couple of years as well is that there's been the rise of a number of Black and Brown and Indigenous owned companies in the clean energy space, particularly in transportation, whether you look at transportation infrastructure. So there's a lot of focus on the EVs and the vehicles, but the EVs and the vehicles will not move without the infrastructure. So whether there's companies like Charger Help, which is an African-American woman-owned company here in Los Angeles, Spark Charge, which is a African-American owned company in Buffalo, New York, or Farm Energy, which is a Latino-owned company, or even Navajo Power, what is an indigenous-owned company. As we see more of these companies rise, they will in turn be able to train and recruit and develop from their own communities. So that way we can see this increase of people of color in the climate space. I think further for the higher education piece of it, what we're looking for is that these partnerships, and this is why we want to focus on encouraging and partnering with HBCUs, HSIs, indigenous learning communities like the Indie Collective to ensure that we're getting this exposure. Lastly, as a perfect example, I don't know if someone's on the channel from Morehouse. I literally just spoke with a student from Morehouse who's doing phenomenal work. And what I loved about what he said is that he wants to have the opportunity to merge his passion and his life of purpose with his professional life. And I think we're at the point where a lot of us have had the opportunity to where we have access to quality jobs. There's an opportunity to do that on the pathway, but now we have the opportunity to merge that life with quality jobs, with a quality life, and have a quality green job.
In Charity, I would let me chime in from New Jersey in that I think leadership matters. We've got a governor who's very progressive, and when we wrote the new what's called Jobs NJ, the new jobs plan to spur the economy, when he came in, there was a commitment to add an additional 250,000 BIPOC degrees that would open pathways to them for better careers. There's also an intentionality around our green economy work to try to make sure that those individuals who have often been marginalized and left behind in the past, who are disproportionately from minoritized communities, as well as low-income communities, and to Taj's point as well, we also consider geographic diversity in New Jersey across the state, because South Jersey often gets left behind in economic development in the state. So we're being very intentional in all of our efforts to make sure that we don't leave people behind. We often like to talk about making sure that every New Jersey resident, regardless of life circumstance, has an opportunity to fully participate in educational opportunity and in the economy. And so we just have to we've taken a very intentional approach from every aspect that we do, from our work to open the doors to access and promote student success, as well as making sure that those students who are gaining more access have an opportunity to participate more fully in these green economy jobs.
I'll say from a labor movement perspective, one tool that we've used is pre-apprenticeship. So in the building trades really have been doing registered apprenticeship for 100 years, and their programs are really designed to be, they're multi-year programs where at the end of a program, a journey level apprentice can usually not only work on any build anywhere in the country, right? Because there's this labor management partnership at the top, and it extends, and their certifications are recognized everywhere. But also the training is comprehensive enough that a worker who comes out as a journeyman apprentice could start their own small business as a contractor in whatever field. The building trades really begin with this thing called the multi-craft core, which is a universal curriculum that spans all of the different building trades, and then individual trades specialize. Building trades historically have had diversity problems, right? And that's something that they're addressing. The North American Building Trades Union is taking a really serious approach and a systematic approach to addressing by creating a universal registered pre-apprenticeship program, which is called Trades Futures. And that is partnering with community colleges and community organizations around the country to really expand and diversify the pipeline. And what workers get in a pre-apprenticeship program is essentially soft skills development around, how do you show up to a work site in time? What extra additional wraparound services do you need to support your family if you're having to show up at a work site in different times? They also get the basic training they need to pass an entrance exam to an apprenticeship program, right? So in that way, they're developing soft skills. They're funded to do it. They've got access to wraparound services, and then they've got to line up into a registered apprenticeship program that will end in a job. So that's one way. we're expanding that model across other sectors, including hospitality, including manufacturing. And so in other places in the country and in other sectors, we're really working on developing pre-apprenticeship as a pathway to create diversity.
And I can only add to that, that we're so lucky in the United States to have two-year community colleges, because we really are a place that provides access to all. Truckee Meadows Community College is a Hispanic serving institution with about 34% of our students identifying as Latino, Latina, or Latinx, right? And so, and we're very proud of that focus at our institution. And so inherent to what many community colleges do for this country is this access mission that has been around since the beginning of community colleges. So, and I think that's helpful as we transition to this new economy and a green workforce. In terms of how do we handle this specifically, a few days ago, I asked for the breakdown based on demographics of the individuals enrolled in our prestigious Tesla START program, and try to, analyze the numbers and make sure that there were different groups represented: white, Hispanic, and African American and Black. So, and some Asian too. And I think the numbers were actually pretty good. But I think there's some interesting data that can be viewed and should be viewed to try to inform how it's going when it comes to this question. Thanks.
Great, thank you. I think Nathalie has a question, and then Eloy.
Hi, my name is Nathalie. I'm from Miami. I go to a community college here. It's called Miami-Dade College. So thank you so much for sharing your projects and everything that you do here. I think it's really cool. But yeah, so I just wanted to share that here in Florida, there's like a lack of awareness, in my opinion. I've come to school here my whole life in Miami, and I just feel I want to know, like, based on the incentives that you said, like, how can we do that in the state of Florida that doesn't like really allow us to talk about climate action or climate change or anything, because it's really censored here based on the politics that we have. As you know, Ron DeSantis is our governor. And how can we push for these opportunities in schools with fear of losing funding? Because community colleges are more often, I believe, public schools. So mine's a public school. So yeah, I just wanted to know how we can do that and not lose funding.
Yeah, great question, Nathalie. I'm from Texas, so in a similar situation with Florida at times. And one of the ways that we do it, and I mentioned it earlier before when I talked about the 3 ways of impact: public health, economic wealth, and the social justice piece of it. When I am in the South and I speak about the opportunities around climate, I never mention the word. I talk about the impact. I talk about the opportunities around this space. Because I think a lot of times, unfortunately, we've gotten into a space where certain words or certain phrases may have some political charges to them. But at the end of the day, we still want to have this impact. And I think there's ways to really tell a story. We just saw a grant that just came out from some of the community colleges within Florida and South Florida that's focusing on storytelling. And I think that's going to be a big part of how students and universities connect with the impacts and the solutions around climate, is through stories and being able to tell these stories differently. So that's one of the ways that we and our team really talk about this, because again, we understand that this idea of environmentalism has been antagonistic, and we have to recognize that. If you're living in West Virginia, or if you're living in a state that's more carbon producing, and you hear this conversation about the green economy, you're feeling like the villain. And so for me, we have to change the way we're talking about this, and talking about it not just from a risk standpoint, from an opportunity, even for those who live in the communities that are being impacted. And so, it has to be this grace on both sides. This grace on the side of, we have to ensure that in the states that we're talking about climate in a way to where we can get everybody involved. But we have to also understand utilizing this emotional intelligence and empathy to know that some people, there are some, I'll say, and they don't think about it from a political standpoint, but there are some that feel the idea of it's an attack on their way of life. And we have to show that making these solutions will not attack their way of life, but actually make their lives better.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you so much. Eloy?
All right, thank you, Kim. Good to see everybody. So my question piggybacks on what Natalie just mentioned. So there is not a lot of awareness of these green job pathways in communities of color and low-income communities. As a matter of fact, just the word green jobs doesn't resonate in these low-income communities because these are the communities that are actually impacted directly by climate change. They're impacted directly by pollution. So these are also the communities that have an eroding trust in government organizations, even in community colleges, where enrollment decline continues to challenge our community colleges because these communities see the increasing cost of attending college, the changing value proposition in their mind about how to actually get into these jobs. So how can we work with policymakers, employers, and the post-secondary institutions in these communities to more clearly expose low-income families to these kinds of careers and lower the barrier to entry to these jobs and help them see this as true careers. And I also want to say to Natalie, you're welcome to move to California. We'd love to have you here so you can express your views however you want.
And in response to that, Eloy, I would say that we have to take a whole of government approach. Government tends to respond. I don't know about other states like California, but I know in New Jersey, we respond to the constituents when the constituents are knocking on the doors of legislators. And so when you get different groups and different advocacy groups focusing on that, I think it requires, one, some leadership that is committed to it. We talk often in New Jersey about the whole of government approach and creating multiple touch points to help educate, because you're absolutely right. Those communities are not well informed about these green economy jobs. And that's why you have to create some intentionality. There has to be, I often talk about creating this education and workforce ecosystem. And what that entails is equal engagement from the K-12 sector, higher education, and the workforce working in tandem. As we often talk about in New Jersey, in hubs, in community-based hubs. New Jersey is a whole lot smaller than California, but even in New Jersey, we are trying to cultivate, areas of North Jersey and Central Jersey and South Jersey to focus on how do we open the pipelines to these very same populations to make them more aware. And so we have to have a stronger partnership between our K-12 operation, our DOE, our Commission on Education, and our Secretary of Higher Education's office. We have to have multiple touch points as we talk about it. We're expanding our Gear Up program to be in more middle schools and high schools, which focus on low-income students. We have an initiative called College Readiness Now, which is designed to help students who are from low-income backgrounds get better prepared for college. We also are, for the first time, doing a dual enrollment pilot this year to underwrite dual enrollment efforts, because dual enrollment exists in New Jersey, but it exists basically for the people. It's basically pay your own. So the wealthy families in the state are able to take advantage of it and get exposure to these career opportunities and get kind of a head start on it. But the low income families that you're talking about often don't. So we have to have multiple touch points to through this ecosystem to make families, communities, and students aware. It has to take multiple agencies, multiple local advocacy groups like College Futures to be engaged with each other and the school districts themselves. So it can't be a one-off. It has to be a very intentional, whole of government, systemic approach to making this work.
I would like to add to that something that I've been thinking a lot about, and that is our DACA students and our undocumented students, some of whom are not DACA, so they're not formally registered anywhere. And I think what I find so contradictory and ironic in our system of workforce training and meeting workforce needs is that we've got these manufacturers coming on board. Many of them are reducing the supply chain for obvious reasons that we see now, including the war between Russia and the Ukraine. And the New York Times had a great article on this a couple of days ago about how the world economy is changing and we're going away from globalization because of some of the pitfalls of that. There's a company near Reno called Redwood Materials, and they figured out a way to recycle the elements to reproduce lithium batteries in a way that reduces carbon. And so it's a remarkable, remarkable company. And they are trying to reduce the supply chain and try to locate as much as they can in the US. And I think this is a wave of the future. What that means for the US is that we're going to need a lot more workers. And yet we have people who have come to our country who are taking on a lot of jobs that many citizens will not take on. We know that many of these folks are students at TMCC. I know they work hard. I know they're motivated. I know they want to become American citizens someday. And here they are, ready to work, right? And yet there's not a strong enough connection among our leaders. And it really is a leadership crisis, in my opinion. And I'm talking Congress people, representatives, Senate. I think the executive branch is doing a pretty good job opening this conversation up, but we can do a lot more. We need to find a way to provide legal paths of citizens to citizenship that connect directly to this new economy. My dad was an immigrant. The only reason he was allowed to come to America is because he got a work permit, because he had a Dutch technical training. And that's why he was allowed to come legally. And I keep wondering to myself, how come we can't expand those legal work permits and a path to citizenship in this new green energy economy? And so I agree with Brian, we really do need to think systemically, but we need to think about the whole system, as difficult and complicated as that thought process is.
Yeah, and I would agree. Number one, Eloy, on telling Natalie to come to California, whether Northern California where you're at or Southern California where I'm at. But to your question, this goes back to why I said that this idea of climate code switching, we have to talk about this impact in different ways, make it resonate. You know, one of the things I always say is that when we talk about climate, environmentalism, and sustainability, a lot of communities of color have already been doing this, right? When we talk about here in California, when there was a ban on single-use plastics, or single-use bags of stores, one of the things a lot of communities said was, wait a minute, those aren't single-use. We use them for many different things, whether it's trash can liners or many different other things as well. So I think that this idea of there are already a lot of things, especially in the area of circular economy, that communities are already doing that just have a different name for it, and which is why storytelling is extremely important. One of the things that we talk about in CREST that we are going to do is, in addition to really trying to place those 25,000 individuals in these green economy jobs in the next 5 years, is ensuring, to your point, 100,000 people or more are aware of these jobs. And that awareness is going to come from really going to places where the people are at, not just in the spaces where those of us who know climate are there. To give you a perfect example, here in Southern California, we have this event called Coachella that many of the young people probably on this line would know about. But at Coachella, what they did was they had a weekend where they talked about sustainability and climate and how that relates to music and conferences. And further, they had a lot of sustainable practices at this event, whether it's reusable and recyclable products and things of that nature. And so I think that for all of us that's here, we have to ensure that we're getting to those communities where the young people are at, our communities of color are at, and ensuring that we're talking in a language that's both understanding for those communities as well.
Excellent points. And I'm gonna represent Natalia and say she's not coming to California if she can't get one of those fly hats. The hat is required for the move.
Absolutely. And the hat is made out of waste. So
there you go. There you go. All right, Toddy.
Hi, everybody. I'm having trouble with my video and my microphone, so I apologize for not being able to get my video on, but it's been a great conversation, a really terrific panel. And my question is really about private universities. I represent Duke University, and I want to know if you have any advice for a private institution and how we can play a better role to support this important work. We occupy a little bit of a different niche in the higher education ecosystem. And do you have any advice for us?
So Toddy, I think that it's well-resourced privates especially have an opportunity to get engaged in this work. You know, in New Jersey, one of the things I've been cultivating in the time I've been secretary is more partnerships, working in collaboration with each other, going after large federal grants and large grants from other entities. And so in cultivating the partnerships, you know, the two institutions in New Jersey that often end up partnering are Princeton and Stevens Institute of Technology. And so those are two of our, of course, one is by far one of the most well-resourced institutions in the country. And I think that there's an opportunity there to work closely hand in hand with what's taking place in the public sector, because the publics do get more resources from the state and often from the feds, because they often just have more scalability as far as research is concerned. But I definitely think the possibility of partnering with the other with the public institutions in the state provides an opportunity, or not even across state lines, provides an opportunity to get engaged or help the independent institutions get engaged in this work.
I would love to see private universities help with the policy piece. I think that the two-year college, we're really sort of practical. Of course, we do a lot of transfer education, but we're pretty hands-on. I think what I'd love to see happen in our prestigious universities really try to connect the systemic dots and shape policy, including policies around immigration and how that can create a stronger workforce if we come up with solutions around citizenship and residency.
I want to just jump into and plus on the immigration point, you know, in the labor movement, if you have guest workers coming in who can lose their jobs at any moment, who can lose their immigration status if they lose their jobs, that creates a sub-tier of workers, and that makes it harder for workers to organize and make good jobs. So I think as we think about the massive expansion we need in workforce, all universities having really serious conversation about creating pathways for workers to come and stay is better and more equitable for everybody in our economy. I'll also say to Duke, you know, the AFL-CIO has a close partnership with Carnegie Mellon University, where we bring workers and people involved in workforce development and training into the engineering labs to see advanced technologies as they're being developed and to participate in the research and development process around those advanced technologies. And really centering worker voice leads to the development of better technology, right? But also leads to better workforce development and training programs. So I would say, in addition to focusing on policy, really thinking about workers and future workers and trainees as stakeholders in the design and development of technology can speed along and make also a more equitable workforce development system.
I know we are just about on at time, but Taj, I'm wondering if I can give you last word about the impact of this work in relation to the Bipartisan Infrastructure Reinvestment Act, and how should we be thinking about that as a resource and sort of a push-pull in this work?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Dr. Reed. I think it's important for us to recognize that policy like the IRA will impact a lot of the emphasis for investors on what they're doing, which is important for us in this higher education space, because that investment is really going to kind of change the way, or really direct the way that we train our students and be prepared for those jobs. So I definitely think whether you're for your university, private, public, or to your college, having an understanding about what these policies are, both federally like the IRA, but also the local as well. So here in California, where we have the 2035, where all the vehicles are going to be electric, that's going to be extremely important as we prepare students and to get jobs as the new age mechanics that are now engineers for this space. And so I think having an eye on the policy side of it is going to be extremely important. And I think lastly too, with Toddy's question that goes along with this as well, is that I think is a great opportunity for universities and organizations and nonprofits like us and the state, like with Brian, is that to be more collaborative in this approach. Because I think that there's an old saying that says many hands make light work, and we have to make the light work of getting our students prepared for these jobs of the future.
Excellent. This has been fantastic information. I just really appreciate it. So thank you for the excellent conversation. I'll turn it back over to Millie.
Well, I too want to join Dr. Reed and say what a wonderful presentation and conversation. Thank you so very much. And thank you for joining the second listening session of the Higher Ed Climate Action Task Force. The next one will be as exciting. So it's our next listening session, the series will be on July 24th at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll hear from speakers who will let us know about how higher education can incorporate climate learning opportunities for all students. Please register and join us for that. And this session is now concluded. Thank you so very, very much.